And will we see when people come into the chat room? I guess that's something I'll do.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder why that's happened. It's going live on my old live as well, which is annoying. Right, let's see. I'm using a new streaming software, so I'm working things out as we go. Let's see if it's done that on LinkedIn. It'd be very bizarre if it has. Okay, it looks to be all good. It doesn't look like it's gone live on the old stream as well. It looks like it's just on our session.
Okay.
So we'll give people a bit of time to join. Let me also bring up
a bit of perfume. I don't know about you, but I do like wearing perfume, even if I'm working from home. Makes me feel so, yeah.
I feel like it puts me more in the zone.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess it's smells nice. The whole thing. Yeah. So you'll share the recording on LinkedIn, or just with the people that.
The way it works is it automatically posts to LinkedIn. So anytime somebody looks at the event, instead of just having the event, they'll be able to see the recording immediately. So I think I would have to delete the event in order to remove. I can't actually remove the recording without removing the event, which is handy. Okay, so we've got 6 people on at the moment, but we'll give it a bit of time. So for those of you who have joined us nice and early, please go and get yourself a water or a tea or something stronger. You know, it's cocktail hour somewhere, and then come back and join us because we will start just after time. So we're just kind of setting up the tech and making sure that everything works for now. Okay, I'm just putting the bits you sent me in the event chat now.
Thanks.
Okay, great. So if you've joined, also please put in the chat where you are joining from. It's always great to see where in the world people are joining the conversation. I'm always so fascinated still, you know, the internet I think has been around my whole life, but I'm still so fascinated that you can speak to people around the world and do these events. I think it's great. Oh, great. Hi, Masonda.
I can't see the chat at all.
Sorry?
I can't see the chat at all.
Oh, okay. So the chat, you'll have to have LinkedIn open on your phone.
Ah, okay.
That's where the chat will be. Again, this the streaming software. Okay, we're just waiting for it to come to time. So if you've joined, please feel free to take a comfort break. We will start just after 12. Hello, hello. I can see a few more people joining. If you're wondering what's happening, please do just take a comfort break. We will start just after 12. And if you can pop in the chat where you are joining from, that would be great. Oh, let me go and get my charger. Let me just turn my camera up a second.
I tried, Nissim, but I can't see the chat. So, or the people, I'll just, I'll rely on you to let me know any comments or questions and stuff.
Definitely. So the way the chat works, it's a bit confusing. Underneath the event, it's a comments basically.
Yeah.
The comment, yes, that will be the same chat that people use. So people post comments to the event, and then that's what doubles up as the chat.
That's fine.
So I think Emma had put a comment in that said, "What a great pairing!" That was when the event was initially yes, it's on that same stream.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll just give it another minute for those who are speeding from their last meeting to get here, and then we will
It's always a back to back to back, isn't it? Problem.
Exactly, yeah. We've got a comment. I don't know if you've seen it from Ashraf. Can't wait. I'm writing about the same topic this month, but with a special focus on the Moroccan context. So that could be quite interesting to hear any comments back.
Yeah. It'd be very interesting to know, the Moroccan market, what that's like.
Exactly. Yeah. Whenever I'm chatting with people on LinkedIn, one of the first questions I ask, just from a change in leadership perspective, is, do people understand change where you work? What's its role within kind of leadership? And there's so many varied responses that I get. It's so interesting to hear. So I'm always keen to hear what kind of how local context plays out. Okay, so let's jump in because we want to make sure that we have got enough time. So welcome, whether you're watching live or you're watching back the recording. Today, we're talking about the top 20 skills transformation professionals need. If you've been following my journey on LinkedIn, you'll know that I'm always kind of looking forward and discussing what kind of leadership qualities, what does change capability look like, because it evolves depending on what is happening in the world at the moment. And I'm so happy to have Sarah with me today to take the lead on this discussion today. I'll be asking questions. I'm as curious as you are to hear her perspective on this, and you'll understand why when she gives you her intro. So Sarah, please let me hand the floor to you, and please tell us who you are.
Hello, thank you very much, Nissim. Thank you for inviting me to have this conversation with you all. I, when I look at myself, I think, why would anybody be interested in what I've got to say? I just sort of fell into my career, but I don't think actually anybody falls into their career. But I certainly could have been a bit more mindful and a bit more intentional about what I was doing and how I was planning it. I grabbed it with both hands. So for the last 4 to 5 years, I've been running my own company. I'm an executive coach. I coach people in leadership, in transformation, in change, predominantly in the tech and telco industry, but not only in that. I have loved it. I've loved being an entrepreneur over the last 4.5 years. It's definitely something that I never planned to do. But when the opportunity arose, I did grab it. So thinking about where did I start? I started with a real passion for the environment when I was a teenager, and fought my dad, who said I should go into insurance. I don't know why. Anyway, fought my dad. He thought I should go into insurance and said no, I want to go into transport because that was the only industry I could see that was environmental at the time or available to me. So I started my career in transport, and I don't mean I was a bus driver, although I did work with quite a few bus drivers. I was working on, you might have seen it if you're in London or anywhere around the country or the world. When there's a bus coming along, there's some signs, electronic signs that tell you when the next bus is due. So I did the first project of that type in London. And it was incredibly new and incredibly exciting. And as soon as that was launched and became operational, I was working in TfL, and it all sort of fell a bit flat for me. So I looked for the next tech, the next excitement, and I fell into project management in telco, out of transport completely, although still a passion. You can see the odd bus on my shelves. So the majority of my career, I've got a lot of scars and wrinkles and grey hair under all this, and it's been in telco and tech. I started as a junior project manager, worked my way up, and I've run major departments in the UK and across Europe, 500 people plus, multi-million pounds programs, 200 programs per year. It's, I know I say it quite off the cuff, but it's quite a massive undertaking and an impressive background. So that's how I know what a good project or change manager looks like. I know what people are looking for in terms of recruitment. I know what's great and what's missing a lot of the time and what gets forgotten. I see so many job adverts and people looking for just a process, prints or something written by somebody who doesn't know. So those are my credentials, and also I've got 2 grown-up children, both of whom are very self-aware and emotionally intelligent. Probably, when I look back, it's probably because of all the conversations we've had around the dinner table. I end up coaching them through their life. So yeah, so that's me, and that's why I'm here talking to you.
Thank you, Sarah. That's great. I think it's so amazing to see the journeys where we start and how it leaves ripples, So whether it's people, there might be people on this call and maybe they're in their 40th year, in the transformation space, or there's people like you and I who have got backgrounds in transformation and then have gone kind of the entrepreneurial route. But yeah, I love hearing people's stories. So I'll now hand over to you to walk us through your presentation. As always, if you've got any questions on, please drop them in the chat, or questions or comments. We love to hear what you're thinking as we go through this. I'll be doing the same. So if I think of something, although I won't put it in the chat, I'll just ask it. That's the privilege of being the host. But I will keep an eye on the chat so that I can relay your questions to Sarah as well. So thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. Yeah, do just Nissi, just drop in with any question. I want this to be conversational, really, rather than just me telling you everything that I've been thinking. So So we've been through that. That's who I am. But one of the key questions I'm thinking, why is change harder now? Why is it harder now, sort of more than 10 years ago, even 20 years ago, or even 5 years ago? And I think the real reason is it's no longer just enough to be, I've got Prince, as I mentioned earlier, or I've got an Agile certification, or I'm a Scrum Master, or I can use Microsoft Project, or I can use all these tools that we have, processes, frameworks, and it's no longer just enough to know that. The pace is faster, things are becoming more complex, stakeholders are definitely becoming more demanding, everybody wants more. It's more about the people, motivation, what you do when things go wrong. Because if you've got a perfect project that abides by all the rules, basically, then yeah, you could probably have a quite an easy plan, follow a nice framework, and you don't really need any other tools. But who has a project like that? I don't know any that just go according to plan. Because if they did, we wouldn't have a job. We wouldn't have anything to do, and there'd be no career in the change area. And that's what I used to tell my team, when they'd come and they'd have problems and they'd go, "This is so difficult." I'd be like, let's just think about it another way. If it wasn't so hard, if it was really easy to do, they wouldn't need us. If things didn't go wrong, they wouldn't need us. So things are there's more human skills. I found out actually last week, they're not called human skills. They're not called soft skills. There's a new term which I'm loving called power skills.
Yeah.
So it's the power skills. Have you heard that already, Missy?
Yeah, that's how I refer to them. They're the power skills. That's where things are unlocked. There's
nothing soft about them. Yeah. So it's that when something goes wrong, how you tell people, what you do about it. It's not just managing the plan, it's leading those people as well. So the 3 gaps, I'm going to cut to the chase because I know you want to know. We said there were 20 skills, but let me just tell you there's 3 gaps. The 3 gaps I see is it's more than just a process. So whether that's an Agile framework, a Prince process, whatever you call it, something bespoke to your company, a way of doing things, it's more than just the way you do things. It's about relationships, it's about resilience, it's about looking ahead when things go wrong. The second gap I see is, data's brilliant, data's great. It's that's the facts of the matter, but it's more than just presenting the facts or presenting the data to somebody when you need a decision. It's about telling the story. It's about influencing. It's about providing options. It's about looking at the outcome that's required. So not just presenting just data and having that as the only thing. So that's another gap that I see. People say, well, I told you what was going wrong. I told you what was happening, but actually, unless you engage with these people, your stakeholders and your team, then you won't get the right outcome. And the third one, and we can go into more detail, or you can ask me questions. A key gap I see in change managers and transformation is that professional presence. I'm not saying people aren't professional. It's more the word presence. You could substitute that with the word gravitas. I find gravitas quite a grey term. Some of my clients have come to me, coaching clients have come to me and said, I'm told I need more gravitas, And my first question back is, what do you mean by gravitas? And then the second question is, what does the person that said it to you, what do they mean by gravitas? Because it can mean multiple things to multiple different people. So, but anyway, professional presence, having the presence so that people respect you and respect your opinions and listen. Those are the 3 things.
You know what's really standing out to me about this? When we started this call, we spoke about local context and understand, I wonder what this conversation is going to mean in the Moroccan context. But actually, presence is also one of those that's also very contextual, because what might be seen as confidence and presence in one locale might be seen as arrogance and pride in another locale. What might be seen in one organization as this person is really, really clear, and provides their thoughts in a structured way, might be interpreted in another organization as this person doesn't give us room to have conversation. So really scanning your environment, and as you say, being clear on actually within my local context, what does gravitas mean? What does presence mean? How do I need to show up in this space? And not just kind of being a one size fits all good presence wherever you go, because that doesn't exist. So that's kind of what stood out to me as you're saying that.
That's very true, and I'll be interested to hear what the people who are listening think about that, because it's the culture of the country, but also the culture of the organisation, and the culture can be, we just say it as it is,
Yeah.
or it might be the complete opposite. We're entirely respectful. We listen to everything, and and different companies have different cultures, and and different teams within companies and cultures. So it is very. You need to understand that. You need to understand the people you're working with. So before I just jump into the top 20 skills, you can boil them down to. I've boiled them down to emotional intelligence skills, communication, leadership behaviors, and people. And these are all power skills, as I mentioned earlier, and these skills are becoming more and more recognized, not just in one industry, but in all industries. So the World Economic Forum since 2016 has been very much talking about these power skills. Emotional intelligence specifically has been really up on the high on the agenda in their they do a future of jobs report, I think it's called, a future skills or something like future skills report. I can't remember the title. You might know it, Missy, but so it's since 2016 all these power skills have been front and center, and since 2020 something like that, it's been very much emotional intelligence has been high on the agenda. So if we look at the emotional intelligence ones first, I'm not going to go through all 20, but you can read them. If you click, then it should come up with that. There you go. So the two I wanted to call out of those is seeing things from somebody else's perspective. It sounds really simple, but it's really often missed. Especially when we're busy, when we're frantic, when something's gone wrong on a transformation program, and you just want to say, this is what's happened, and this is what needs to, these are your options, what are we going to do next? You need to think about it from other people's perspective, and it might be somebody in your team, it might be somebody in the technical area in your team, it might be somebody in the operational area that's a receiver of the new change, or it might be one of the stakeholders. And by knowing the people and building those relationships, you will be able to see things more from their perspective. That's where the real groundwork comes in, is having those relationships and understanding the people and listening to what they're saying. So seeing things from somebody else's perspective is really important. Even if you haven't built the relationships you need to, or they're not as deep as you need to, listening is a really, really understated skill, underrated skill. Listening and actually trying to understand their perspective. The other one is having straightforward conversations. Don't beat around the bush. Even if you're worried that people might be upset, angry, whatever it is, they'll be more upset and angry if you haven't just said it really clearly. Whatever's on your mind, whatever the problem is, whatever the risk is, whether it's a budget, a timescale, an outcome, a test plan, something, just have those straightforward conversations, just say it. And when my clients say to me, but how do I do that? I'm really worried. And they sometimes people worry about the emotion And I say, just talk to them about the facts. And at that point, you do talk about the data, you do talk about the facts, and then you listen. So I'd say those two, out of all the emotionally intelligent ones, I'd say are really, really key and often overlooked. On the communication side, these are the ones under communication, but I've just mentioned building those strong relationships. You cannot deliver successful large-scale change or any change without those relationships being built, understanding people. And sometimes it's a bit about having something in common with somebody, or just knowing that you've been through a lot, maybe, or it might be a brand new relationship, but what you've got in common is the outcome of the project or some of the people on the team. And another really key skill is influencing and persuading other people, because you know that there will be times where not everybody agrees. There's going to be 2, 3, maybe 4 different ways of doing things, and everybody will have their own perspective. So it's about influence and persuading and finding the right way forwards. And it might be something that none of them want, but it might be the right way forwards. So influencing and persuading other people is really important. And these are all skills that can be learned. They're not just behavior attributes. They're real skills that can be learned, but they need practice. They really need practice. So in terms of leadership behaviors, there's, asking powerful questions is amazing, but I've put there commanding gravitas, and I know I've just said that's a bit of a catch-all, and it is a bit of a catch-all, but I'll show you a book in a minute that is really, really good at identifying which areas of gravitas you might need to work on. Gravitas is a real leadership behavior. It means people will listen to you, they'll respect your opinions, and when you walk in a room, they notice that you're there, and they trust you. And then on the people side, we have the final skills in there.
Sorry.
Thank you. I can't remember them off the top of my head. Having a strong personal brand. So that is really, really important. Knowing who you are and why you're there and why you're at the table. And I've heard some people say to me in the past, I don't want a brand. I don't need a brand. I'm not that sort of person. But, you have a brand, whether you want one or not, you have one. The brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So if you're not in the room and they're saying, I don't know, they're a great change manager, or they're a great communicator, or I wish they'd do that more, or they're, whatever it might be, that is your brand, whether you like it or not. So having a strong personal brand, being intentional about it, and thinking about actually what would I like people to say about me when I enter the room or when I leave the room? What would I like them to think? And then maybe working on how to get to that point. And then tailoring your communication to different audiences. So everybody's different. People like to take in information in different ways. Some people like lots of information. Some people just like a few bullet points. Some people like a little bit of chat first. There's a lot of different ways to communicate. Even before you start thinking about text, WhatsApp, email, and all the other communication methods that we've got. There's so many different mechanisms, and there's so many different ways that you can communicate. It's really tailoring it to your audience so that you're hitting the right people, so that it's going in. It's not about being deceptive. It's just about making sure the information goes in. I had a stakeholder once. He was an MD of product. I was, running the project management department. I went to see him once a month. And I'd just say, this is how the projects are going. And I'd say, this is where I need your help, and I just talk about the risks and the problems so that he was aware. I thought he's not got much time. So this is my snapshot information. Yeah. Actually, at one point, I'm so grateful to him. At one point, he said, Sarah, why are you so negative? And that really slapped me across the face, because I I do see myself as a really optimistic and positive person. So I went away and thought, why did he say that? And I realized it was because he likes the positivity. He likes to hear how things are. He likes to hear how people are doing. And I was thinking, well, he hasn't got much time. I'll be really brief. I'll just tell him what the problems are. He'll assume everything else is great. You know, what I then did was I tailored my communication. I still went to see him once a month, but the next time I went to see him, I talked to him about how great things were going. I just not said it because it was a given to me. I told him how the projects were really exciting. Again, it was just a given. And then I talked about the risks and things that I needed from him. It was like I'd had a completely different conversation with him. For me, it was the same conversation. But some of it I think had just gone on in my head. It was like his diary opened up a lot more a lot easier to me. Things like that. He became it was just like a real switch. It's so funny. So that, and I'd been trying to tailor my communication to people for many years, but this one was just a real, because he said, why are you so negative? And I went, boom. I hadn't been doing it properly with him. So that was really interesting. That's what I mean by tailoring your communication.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the Future of Jobs report, the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, one thing that really stands out to me when I reflect on, if I just go back to your slides where it's just these top four, the world, we're now in a state of continuous change. And because of that, it also means that the workplace can feel a lot more threatening, you know, because you're never really settling into a regular rhythm. Whereas maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you would go in, you get your job, you understand what the process is, and you could sit there, honestly, for the next however many years doing that process in the exact same way, quite comfortable. You know, your day is quite predictable. Now that is happening less and less. Continuous improvement or transformation, change, whichever bucket your organization puts it in. What it means is you're going into work and you're not constantly on guard, but constantly on guard. You know, you're thinking about, okay, what's my role going to look like in the next year? What's my role going to look like in the next 6 months? Add to layer onto that AI. We're doing a session. I'm doing a session next week with Neil, who specializes in AI change. But when you add the layer of the fact that AI is coming in, a lot of people, there's a lot of anxiety around what the future of work looks like. But for me, the ultimate safeguard or the ultimate way to de-risk yourself is to get really good at all of these, because we know that even with the advent of AI, even with the advent of continuous change, it's people on the receiving end of that change. We also know that good AI integration, and a principle of good AI integration, is always have a human as part of the loop. You know, don't just make it completely machine led. So human beings still play an integral part of being in the world. What do you know? So to develop these skills and to make sure that you're really good at interacting with people, you're really good at telling stories and taking people on that journey. Again, whatever your job looks like, we're going to need people like that. That actually you're somebody that people want to follow. Making sure that, you know, there's some people now, and this is me putting it really crudely, that are only in leadership positions because of like history, you know, and the only reason people listen to them is because of their title. They don't have any influence. If they didn't have the title that they had, nobody would listen to them. That's the box you don't want to be in. You want to be that person that even without the title, everybody knows you're an informal influencer. This is somebody that if we get that person on side, everybody else is going to follow, because that is what's going to be needed going forward, regardless of what the workplace looks like. So I think it's great to sort of see these power skills like this. I would encourage everybody listening now, listen to the recording, really hang on to that word power skills, because going forward, that's where the power is going to lie, in the people that have this skill set or these skill sets.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, because you mentioned AI, I will really try my best to come to that one next week. That sounds good. I saw something recently from TJ Power, and he said, it's not that AI is going to steal our jobs. We just need to be careful that AI doesn't steal our brains.
Yes.
So when you do communicate, when you do lead and you are talking to people, make sure you do it authentically. I see a lot of people talking about how they have conversations with people and and going on to AI and saying, what shall I say to this stakeholder, blah blah blah, and then off it goes into an email or a WhatsApp, or even they say it, and it's just, that's, make sure AI doesn't take your brain, and then you'll be fine. But you're right, these power skills are there, and they will be that will de-risk. I wrote that word down because I like that word, de-risk, the future for you.
Yeah, you'll always hear me talking about risk whenever we talk about change and leadership. You know why? Just quick sidebar. When we're talking about humans, transformation, change, I find from a corporate perspective, sometimes certain execs will switch off, when because they're just thinking, well, we're humans, we're just going to get on with it. Isn't everybody just going to fall in line and do what they need to do? But actually, risk is a word that gets everybody's attention. Those who have a focus on people, those who have a focus on corporate, because it bridges the two. So
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a kind of risk advocate in the kind of people in leadership space. We've got a comment here from Ashraf. He says, today we're shifting from purely technical skills, which remain essential to broader human and strategic / tactical skills that help us.
Yeah, that's true. I'd say we're not moving from one to another, but I think as you go through your career, you do move from one to the other. There's a lot of knowledge, especially in the tech world. There's a lot of, when you first get your qualifications, and then you get extra qualifications, and then you get certifications, and it's all about the qualifications. But as you sort of progress in your career, I think, you need to keep on top of all that, but then you also need to then really up your skill with these 20 sort of power skills. Probably with AI, I think actually, Ashraf, you're probably right. With AI, maybe the technical will be less important, some of the technical jobs, but it's the human jobs that will expand. Interesting point. So I know it's 20. 20 is a very difficult number to remember. Maybe you've taken a photograph or a snapshot of that. But if you could just focus on 3 things. I know Michael Mosley said just 1 thing, but, I like 3. So just 3 things. It's building strong and purposeful emotional intelligence. And these are all things that aren't black and white. They're not about your personality. These are things that can be learned. How to tailor your communication style based on who you're talking to, groups, as we've said, to drive that and maximize that influence, and also to command the gravitas when you're at the table, and to look at exactly how you do that. So that's right. No, you can do that. So there's 3 books. There's a book on each of those topics. So the first one is, got it here. So Emotional Capitalists, written by Dr. Martin Newman. He's a fantastic, don't know what you'd call him, an emotional intelligence doctor, but he's done a lot of research. He runs a company called Roche Martin, who do emotional intelligence assessments and workshops and coaching, which I can do. But really, that enables this book. Will, if you want to read a book or look at some YouTube or something, then look up Martin Newman. It helps you regulate your emotions, understand what emotions you are feeling, think about them, help to understand others, and actually look forward, and inspire confidence and embrace self-improvement and embrace other people. So things like being straightforward, having empathy, listening, knowing yourself, having self-confidence. These are all emotional intelligence competencies. There's 10 of them. So he talks about that in his book. There are lots of other books. Dan Goleman was the godfather of emotional intelligence, so you probably already read his book. But yeah, I'd say that one from Martin Newman's really good. The second book, I love a book recommendation, Surrounded by Idiots. This is still in the top 10 if you go into any UK bookstore at least, and it has been for a while. I picked this up when I was on a long train journey from London to Scotland, and I'd already done DISC training. I'm certified in insights discovery. It's the same, but it's in a book, and it doesn't talk about that. It doesn't talk about insights, but it's a really fun book. By understanding that people fit into essentially 4 categories. I know we all like to be individual, but we're a little bit of one of 4, or a little bit of a mixture of the 4. Then you can understand other people. Then you can communicate with empathy. The story I told you about the MD, he was yellow. He was a person who he was extrovert. He loved positivity, and I was red at the time. Interestingly, I've changed. I was red. I was project focused. I was task focused. I wanted to just get in, get the information done, get out, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Knowing that, thinking about it, and spotting what color he was, that's what made me able to change my communication. So tailoring your message, it really helps to reduce conflict in teams by knowing what sort of person different people are. So that's another one.
Sorry, just my curiosity. You mentioned that you were red and you're not anymore. What are you now?
I'm yellow now. I was red yellow, and now I'm yellow red. So in terms of red yellow, red was my highest color, and yellow was my second, and now it's just switched round. And I think partly because I used to work for Virgin Media O2 and Liberty Global, both of which are very red focused companies. It's not just their brand colors. They're very task focused. And now I'm a coach, and I've got my own company, and I've got my creative. I'm far more creative. I talk to people every day. That's my job. So it's still very yellow now. I need to remember to be quiet sometimes.
Yeah.
What are you, Nissy? Do you know?
I'm red yellow. Yellow, and I'm very aware of it. So the first time I took one of these assessments, I don't know if it. Yeah, I did have a color coding quite early in my leadership. I was in my 20s, but anyway, so I've gone through so many changes. I've gotten married, I've had kids, and it just hasn't shifted. I've gone from being employed to being self-employed, and so I'm red yellow, but they're quite close. It's not like they're drastically. And then the blue and green, they're there as well. None of them are like 0, you know. They're all quite chunky. And then my MBTI is very much aligned to that. I'm ENTJ, and the past 15 years it hasn't shifted.
Well, interestingly, Myers-Briggs apparently won't ever change. It rarely change. Your insights colors can change, but not very much. But what can change is your emotional intelligence can really change, and also you can flex your style. Once you know what your style is in terms of colors, you can flex it.
Yeah, see, that's what I've had to do because I'm aware. Ordinarily, I'm very red, especially when like I don't have time. I become, what do you want? Why are you here? Like that's actually my communication style. But I'm married to somebody who's very yellow, which must have had its impact because we've been married over 10 years. And then having kids as well, you have to soften up because kids are not on the same time as adults.
Yeah.
So that's that's.
And then thinking about what color are your kids? I mean, we could have this conversation offline, but yeah,
they're probably the same. That's the thing. We're a family of kind of very social, task driven. We're all quite similar.
That's exhausting.
We're all quite similar. Even my sons, if they ask me a question, they're like, "Do you want this or what?" You know, they've picked up that very curt way of talking.
That's funny. One of my daughters is green, so I need to remember that on a regular basis.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd say is look at Caroline Goyder, Gravitas. Again, it doesn't have to be the book. There's plenty online from Caroline. She's great. She talks about when I read this book, I only read it about 3 years ago, and I recommend it a lot. She talks about the different types of gravitas, and when I read it, I'm like, yeah, I've got that. Yeah, I've got that. Yeah, I've got that. oh, I could be better at that, you know. And talking to one of my clients, they were at one point they were very confident, they were very trusted, they were very people listened to them, and they read the book under my recommendation, and they said, actually, I don't think I have. I don't think I know what I stand for, was what they said. And in here, one of the recommendations we came up with from looking at that was every day they wrote something called morning pages. So 5 minutes, they scribbled down their thoughts, and they did it every day. And after a while, they were like, okay, now I know what I stand for, what I think. Then they can communicate that much more authentically with their stakeholders when they're building relationships, and people are like, oh yeah, okay, we know who this person is, we know what they stand for. And that was the bit that was missing. They had stacks of everything else, but it's a really good book. There's lots of different types and areas of gravitas, and as you said, in terms of the culture of your country, your company, your team, it might be different every time. That's a really good book as well. And then I was just going to say, this is my I have some cards, some coaching cards, Shuffle and Co cards that you can use on your own or with coaching sessions, so you can buy them. They are full of skills, a bit like the ones we've been looking at today, and you can then work out actually which skills do I want to develop, which areas do I want to develop. I've got a workshop series that's, if you're local, starting in Basingstoke next month, so have a look on my website at the workshop series, or just to get in touch, info@borderlessperformance.com. And if any of this has resonated and you just want to chat about anything.
Absolutely. I've also put the details. If you just want the links, if you go on the chat, you should be able to see those on there on the actual event page. So there's all the links, there's the code, you get 20% off. Would encourage you to check all of that out, because as mentioned, if you're anxious about your career, you're anxious around the future, and you're kind of not sure where to start, I think definitely building these power skills is a no-brainer. It's something that you absolutely must do. And I believe in it so much, I left my corporate space to focus on the personal branding side. So if you've been following my journey, you'll know that I believe that the change leaders, the change managers, the leaders who are going to thrive going forward are the ones with really strong personal brands. And the reason I think that is because change is continuous. We don't have those dips and those low periods and high periods as much as we used to before, where it could be like, okay, we're going to spend 12 months building trust within the organization so that we can announce the change in 6 months' time. Change is being announced continuously. That means you need to continuously be investing in building those relationships and building that trust. We now work globally. We now work at different times. If you're not intentional about how you show up on social media and how you work asymmetrically with people, asynchronously, sorry, if you're not intentional about how you work asynchronously with people, what you'll find is you don't have the relationship to withstand the pressure of the constant change, and you'll feel like you're talking into a void. So you'll see that Sarah and I are two sides of the same coin. Really believe in building this, and I've seen the difference it makes with the people that I've worked with in terms of their stakeholder conversations, in terms of how they show up themselves. Sometimes it's not even necessarily things that change in the external. I think, Sarah, your example was great, where they'd had all this great feedback, but internally there was no sort of grounding in terms of actually what do I stand for, and having that clarity is so transformational. It unblocks and unlocks so much. So I think it would be a great thing for everybody to look into. We've got 4 minutes left. Any questions that people want to drop into the chat? Otherwise, I have a few. So whilst you're thinking about your questions, I'll ask one of mine. What do you see, Sarah, as the biggest block or the reason why people might not be taking an investment in these skills seriously?
I think it's a good question. There's probably a couple of things. One that springs to mind immediately is just a massive blind spot. So maybe they don't know what they don't know. at some point in my career, I found out about emotional intelligence. I didn't know anything about it beforehand. And it was when somebody said to me, Sarah, do you realise your mood impacts the whole department?
Wow.
You can't see from online, but I am quite tall. Those that are on that know me, I'm quite tall. I used to have a stand-up desk, you know, when we were all in the office. And if I was angry, if I was stressed, if I was happy, you know, it did impact. And somebody just saying that to me really made me think about my self-control. So I think probably blind spot, not knowing. So, you know, if that's something, then the great thing to start with is some of those shuffle and grow cards, because you can use them with your manager or with your HR person or with your friends or your colleagues and see what they think of you, what they think of your skills. But also maybe time.
Okay.
Time, you know, we're all busy. We've all got project deadlines. We've all got enough to do in our time, in our short space of time. But I would say by developing some of these, it will shortcut a lot of the trial and error that you're probably going through, and it will just help you shortcut, and it will save you time in the long run. And obviously, you know, investment is down to money as well. So it's whether your company will invest. But I've also, you know, I know people that invest themselves because they realise how important it is for their career. So three things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was my main question. If you've got a question, feel free to drop it in the chat, although we only have like 1 minute left. So maybe if you just let us know again, Sarah, where we can find you and the local workshop. Are there specific dates in mind? What are the dates of is it an in-person?
It is an in-person one, yeah. I'm actually going to do some, they're not on the website yet, in January that are online. And we're going to have like a morning, lunchtime, UK time, morning, lunchtime and evening session that you can pick and choose which one you want to do. So even if you are thinking, well, I'm not local to the UK or Basingstoke, they start on the 4th of November. But just drop me a line on info at that email address. And I will let you know when the online ones are up for sale, so you can register for those.
Great. Okay, so we're pretty much at time. So thank you so much, Sarah. This has been really, really insightful and something that I know a lot of people will be keeping their eye on. What are the skills that I need? Where are the gaps at the moment? It's been so great to hear your story as well and how you've progressed into the space that you're at now. And I'm sure we'll see you again, if not in this space. Connect with Sarah on LinkedIn. She's on LinkedIn, and you can continue the conversation there. Otherwise, thank you all for joining live and for those who watch the recording.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nisi. Thank you all.
You're welcome.